Welcome to my video in which I explain how I made my Daft Punk helmet and gloves. I first bought a helmet from eBay. I chose for a black helmet and not a chrome helmet because I want to paint everything by myself. It's not perfectly smooth, so I had to sand it a lot to make everything smooth, which is very important. I have put a link in the description below to a tutorial that explains very well how to sand and prepare your helmet and how to paint it. I use some templates online. I will also put that in a link in the description below. I used those templates except for the earpieces. For the earpieces I used a can, like a soda can. I also altered these templates a little bit to match the helmet better, in my opinion. I used cardboard to put the pieces together with tape to see if everything matches up nicely. Some parts can be very tricky to fold, so I used, as you can see here, there are many lines along which I had to fold the pieces. So I used a knife to cut into the cardboard so it folds a bit easier. I took a bit of freedom in how to assemble these pieces, and I didn't think it was exactly perfect. It was very useful, but I adjusted a little to match it better to my face. So for example, the mouthpiece was a bit too wide in my opinion, so I made it a bit thinner, a bit smaller, and then it fit better. I tape everything together to get the shape correct. Later I will strengthen it. I saved these clips so I could attach the helmet better so it wouldn't fall off my head later. This helmet had some screws which the clips were attached. I had to take those out so it was easier to sand the whole helmet. I also took the rubber band off the helmet. The mouthpiece was not exactly the way I wanted it. I think it needed a fold. If you look at the original image of the original helmet, you'll see that it misses that. So I decided to make that myself, so I adjusted things a little bit. Always look at pictures of the original helmet to see if it looks like it. I also had to put some breathing holes into the lower visor. I forgot that. It's very important because it's the only way to breathe inside the helmet. Here's the original piece of the template, and I adjusted a little bit. So here's the new piece with the breathing holes that I need to cut out. Then I taped everything together to the helmet, and just to see if the shape and everything is correct. You can see now it has a little fold underneath the chin. Then I tried it on to see if it fits nicely. Do I have enough space? Is it not too wide? Is it not too small? And I was pretty happy with the result, the shape at least. For the earpieces I use in this case a beer can, which I cut it open with a knife and scissors. If you're gonna do that, make sure to use gloves. These things can get pretty sharp. I decided to also cut out the inside of the can, which is not needed, it's not in the original design, but I wanted to put some neon wire in there. So I cut this out with a knife. Went very difficult. If you have a better way, please use that way, because this didn't go so easy. Later you'll see how that will look like when I put in the neon wire. So I taped those earpieces to the helmet as well. Made sure the shape at least is correct. So later I can apply paper mache and plaster to make everything perfect. I still needed a little bit here on top of the visor. I used, I think, 6 or 7 pieces of paper to make it a bit stronger. To get this cap on the helmet. Also, the back of the helmet was a bit too short, in my opinion. So here I tape paper on it and then measure what I needed, and then I used craft foam and taped that to the helmet. Also put some craft foam inside the earpiece so that I wouldn't cut myself, it was pretty sharp. Then I put paper mache all over the helmet to strengthen it a little bit. I just use some glue and some pieces of old newspaper to make the helmet this way. Later I added some acrylic paste and then I plastered it. Make sure that you don't leave any air underneath it. Go really well into corners. I had lots of trouble in this corner especially. Added some plaster so I could after that sand. It's very important to sand and to make it very, very smooth. I have a link in the description below, like I said before, in which this is explained better by someone else, but just you get an idea of how I did it. I plastered it, sanded again, plastered it again, many times over and over until I was happy with the result, so I could apply with the spray can the filler primer, which I'm gonna do here, which didn't go exactly the way I wanted since the plaster sucks up most of the primer. But you can see on the helmet itself, there it looks way more smooth, but still you can see lots of imperfections that I had to fix later on with the spot body. But in my case I had lots of imperfections, so I practically used spot body all over the helmet, as you can see here. And then I sanded it to make it all smooth. After that I tried to use the primer again. Here again you see the corner around the earpiece, which didn't go so well, and you will see here as well that it cracks, which was a big drama. But the helmet looks way more smooth now, which is very important to make it shiny in the end, that it's very smooth. I had to sand many things again. Here I apply the white primer before I can apply the high gloss black spray paint that I used. I still had to do some little bit of fixing. I don't recommend, if you do it correctly from the start this wouldn't happen, but still these corners gave me some troubles. But after a second layer, the whole helmet was nicely smooth and white, so I could apply the high gloss black spray paint. I used a tack rag or a tack cloth in between painting sessions to make sure no dust got caught underneath or on the helmet. Here's when I applied the glossy black paint, and already pretty reflective, which is very important because after this we're gonna apply the chrome paint, and the glossier it is now, the better the chrome paint is gonna look. The high gloss black is the one on the left, and the second spray can is the plate finish, is the chrome paint that I used to spray it. I don't recommend it actually, it looks very good but it leaves lots of fingerprints, which you will see later, that you cannot take off without ruining the paint. This is after the first layer of the chrome spray paint. This is how it looks, already pretty reflective, but if you look at the back there are some black spots that I missed or didn't spray so well, so I went for a second layer. It's very important to spray it very wet because that's how it's gonna look, but if you do it too wet it's gonna drip, it's gonna run, so it's pretty difficult, pretty tricky to do, but I think it came out pretty nice. You can see it's very, very reflective. But it catches fingerprints very easily, so here I try it out and you can see it reflects very well We also see the fingerprints, which I just couldn't take off. I didn't know, so I had to clean it and then paint it again. For the visor, I used these sheets. I just cut it out the shape that I needed, and then I applied the VHD nightshades, the third spray can. Just one layer of that was enough. You cannot look through the helmet that easy, but from inside you can look to outside pretty easy, but pretty well. Also, I wanted to put some lights in. I just bought some cheap Christmas lights on eBay and used this hole puncher to punch some holes in there, and then I could put the lights through it, glued it with some universal glue, and I glued this whole thing together on the roof of the inside of the helmet. This is the neon wire I was talking about earlier, which I put on the earpiece, both earpieces, and glued and taped them to the inside. Here you can see how it looks in the end. It's not perfect, but I'm very happy with the result. Here you see the earpiece a bit better. This is not in the original design of the helmet, but I decided to give my own little twist to it, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. Just make sure, if you're gonna use this chrome spray paint, to use gloves all the time. And for this costume I needed gloves anyway, so that was not the biggest problem, but be very careful because it leaves fingerprints very easy. I used a template I found online. I'll put the link in the description below, to make the gloves. I just used some woolen gloves. I cut out the template. I cut it out of crafting foam. I bended the crafting foam a little bit so it looked more natural, looked more real. And I used a bit of fire to do that. To not burn my hands for the smaller piece, I used a spoon on top of fire and then bended it this way so it wouldn't burn myself. And once the crafting foam has been hot, you can bend it pretty easy and it stays that way. I painted these pieces with a silver paint. This was a bit too light, so later I made it a bit more dark. And I applied some vinyl chrome sticker on it. You can find anywhere online as well, for very cheap. And there is the end result.